All right, today we're going to start our official first major project. Make sure you did the other one where you did show me where and how you know how to take a picture of something and then send it to me. So it was a picture of a drawing that you did on your own. That is an assignment. Make sure you do finish that. Our new assignment, our new project is going to be with Monet's Haystacks. You'll see some of the examples in this video as you go along. Monet's Haystacks are really famous. There's some in Chicago and other places in the world if you want to see them in person. They are really pretty easy to do, but it's a little bit different than what people are used to. We're not going to be using regular coloring marks like people are used to. So you're going to need a few items. You're going to need a pencil, a paper, and a pack of crayons. I got these from Kroger today for 50 cents. So they had a little sale on them, so I picked them up. All right, so have the crayons off to the side. We'll use those. And what I'm going to do is we're going to start laying this out. So in his haystacks or wheat stacks, there's usually 2 haystacks. And so the first thing we're going to do is make our job a little bit easier to figure out where the horizon line is. And the horizon line is just where the sky meets the ground. I'm going to put a light fold in. I'm not smashing it down. I'm going to do it nice and lightly. So I have a space, so I have some good sky room and I have some good ground room. Okay. Then I'm going to kind of use that as a guideline. I'm just going to kind of go in and add a ground. The ground does not need to be perfectly flat. In the real world, ground's not usually perfectly flat. It should not be zigzags or mountains in this case, because that's not where those kinds of pictures are taken for Monet. Next, we need to draw the haystacks. Now, if you're not sure how to do this, I recommend grabbing a scrap piece of paper and practicing this part on the back of your paper. Okay, so we want the haystack to be pretty tall, so we need to be going into the sky area a little bit and on the ground. And it starts out with kind of a triangle shape at the top, and then the bottom part's more like a cone, so it's going to be rounded. Okay, then the bottom kind of has a trapezoid feel to it. Straight sides, rounded bottom. Okay. Then we erase the extra. Now, as I go and do this project, you can, I'm using crayons because that's what a lot of people have at home, but if you happen to have oil pastels, you can actually do this with oil pastels instead. But I'm going to do it with crayons. All right, so usually in his pictures you have a big haystack up front, and then you have a smaller one in the distance. So we will put a smaller one. Again, the point will be above the horizon line. There's a triangle with a rounded bottom and a trapezoid with a rounded bottom. And then I erase the line so it looks like it's in front. Notice they are not at the same level. All right, next, we need to put in some bushes. And a lot of the fields where he did his paintings, he was in France, and they have bushes dividing up each of the fields. So that's what we're gonna do. It's kind of a cloud shape. And we want somewhere between, let's say, 4 and 6 bushes. We don't need a ton because it just makes things more complicated. So I'm going to go with 4, like that. And then this will be sky up here. We're not going to deal with the sun or clouds right now because once we get going, you'll kind of see why we don't want to add those extra little details in. Okay, now we're pretty much ready for the crayons. We are going to do the field first. So in the field, we're going to need a few crayons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my yellow-green color, yellow. There's actually 2 kind of yellow-green colors, one's lighter and one darker. And I'm going to grab a little bit of regular green. Those are the first ones I kind of want to start off with. All right, so the first color I'm going to do is this kind of yellow-green. A lot of people say it's light green, but it's actually yellow-green. And I'm going to start my marks. Now, this is not coloring like normal. This is where people make a mistake. I need you to do them as little marks. We're not tapping on the paper on purpose. So if you're trying to just make the noise, then that's just going to annoy anybody around you. We want to only do it as much as we have to. We want smaller marks closer to the horizon line and slightly larger marks to the bottom, because at the bottom it seems like it's closer to us. Do not worry about the white spaces between. You can see I left a bunch behind. That is okay. Don't worry about that. And notice I kind of skip around a little bit. That makes it so I don't leave lines, big stripes of things around. I'm not a big fan of leaving stripes. So I kind of jump around a little bit. But I always go back to fill it in a bit. And the reason why we're using green first is because the grass and the field here would still be slightly more alive than the stacks, because those are cut. So we want a slight color difference. Okay, that's our first color. And I should let you know that this is going to take 2 class times, so this week and next week to complete this. All right, next I'm going to add in some yellow-green. It's going to go right on top. It's going to help fill in some of the marks. Next layer, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. Again, it's just to fill in some more spaces, and this is just regular yellow that I'm using. You can see how it kind of blends everything together a little bit. Okay, next I'm going to add just a little bit of green. I don't want to add too much because the field should be drying out a little bit, so I don't want to have too green a grass. All right, next, since we're working with the ground, I want to go ahead and deal with these colors here, and then we'll stop. So these two are going to be colored the same way. And we're actually going to start with yellow on these because they're pretty much all dried out. So we want to start with a yellow color. And again, it's the short marks because this is all grass that is stacked up. Remember, wheat and hay is just a form of grass. Okay, so the yellow, I'm going to go ahead and do the yellow over here. Use smaller marks because it's small. I'm going to use the yellow-green. This is the lighter of the yellow, see it's the lighter one. Use that next. The next one. This is not regular green, this is another yellow green. And a few marks here. Again, lightly doing this one.
Okay.
And then we're not going to add regular green to that. What we are going to add, though, is, let's see if I do have if you have a dandelion or a kind of a goldish yellow, that one's a good one to throw in there too. I like to throw that one in there because, again, that looks a little bit like dried grass. Good to mix the colors. Okay. So I did throw in, this was, for me, it was called dandelions, kind of a little smidge of orange like mixed into it. All right, the next color I need to add is brown. Now, brown is gonna be added only to one side because it's gonna act as a shadow. So I'm gonna add very lightly to 1/2. So I'm gonna have the right-hand side be my shadow. So I'm gonna go in. Some shadow there, and it's got to match. So if this one has a shadow on the right, then this one has to have the shadow on the right. Again, doing it very lightly. We don't want to turn it brown. We just want some brown flecks in there. I'm going to go just a smidge past the halfway point, if you notice. Just a smidge past the halfway point. And that's where we're going to stop for today. Okay? So you get to this point, if you need to rewatch the video to choose colors, go ahead. If you don't exactly have the same colors, do the best you can with the colors that you got. All right, and we'll see you next week.